revolt against who and why? Well, I've mentioned it, seen it in my previous videos. We are the USA in a revolting quagmire of Bush assassinations and Hoover assassinations, cover-ups, forced grand theft, immorality. It was a fiend, horrible, criminally insane assassin cover-up, immoral fella, pedophiliac. That's a revolting against the laws of God and man, our Constitution, Bill of Rights, civil rights. So we have to revolt against that revolting quagmire that they forced us into. And Abraham Lincoln said, he saw them that they were doing things where they would say they have the authority and just do it no matter what. And he, as president while in office, said if this shadow government, if these criminals, if like they were, if they grab the power and say we're the power, he says the people have the right to take up arms because they use guns and force. He says people have the right to take up arms and get their government back and take their government back. Now, he said that while president. That's how serious he considered those who grab power and hold this power by hook or crook, by the gun. So that's Bush Sr. Assassinations. Take over. Johnson told his girlfriend the night before, tomorrow Kennedy is out. And he was shot. And they have pictures that maybe include Bush Sr. in front of that school building. It looks like him. And then they have witnesses as to Bush Sr. before John Kennedy's plane crashed. Absolutely. And then they get Ronald Reagan to get the vote, and then what they do, they shoot him, but he didn't die. But he was just up there speaking as a professional speaker, and they have the power. And they do it openly now, ever since Eisenhower. Eisenhower said their threat is those he saw would have power over him, and he was president. He says that they have this power, and they run what they want to do. Assassinations, cover-ups, forced grand theft of my Xerox and my laser beam. Now, this is coming to you as a video of a d.b.a PhD company. I have 4 programs: Universal Pure Christians, Preacher Doc, d.b.a PhD company, World-Class Science and Achievements. And I have Expose Editor, in which I look at what all the conspiracy theories, exposés, all what they have written, review them, summarize them, and then analyze them and present what the facts, true facts are. I don't write those exposés. I just report what the exposés are. They got thousands of conspiracy and hundreds. Many of them are really good of proof of expose facts as far as the assassinations and cover-up. Now, I said I believe, and definitely this is me, Preacher Doc, and it's upward and forward as a philosophy, political system, upward and forward for the people. upward and forward. And there is, I don't think it's official, but it could be, but it's understood, there is a body of intelligent people, an august body of intelligent people who take pride in what they have achieved and who they are. Intellectuals that look forward to going upward and forward with honesty, honors. And that's what I'm demanding. I'm demanding honors and compensation for the money they've stolen, my money they've stolen from me. It's my constitutional right. It's in the Constitution. Bill of Rights, Civil Rights, Law of God and man. So you don't have to be a believer in order to say, yeah, he must get honors and financial compensation. It's his money that he must get some of it back. He needs that and has the right by the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Civil Rights, Law of God, and Law of Man. You see. So I had mentioned that in this august body, what does it mean? August body is an esteemed, reverend, revered, honored group of intellectuals. They're all, this planet there is an august body of intellectuals that should be, of course, honored and respected. An esteemed group of intellectuals take pride in their profession, who they are. And that's what I'm emphasizing. And I mentioned those that are worthy to be mentioned in this august body. And I mentioned John Paul II. Why? Well, look what he did about freeing people of Eastern Europe. And he survived an attempt of being murdered. And he then really obtained freedom for some of those countries that were dominated, that wanted freedom, you see. And especially then with the Polish people. And he was from Poland. So I have him as the first one to mention. John Paul II, Pope. Then Mahatma Gandhi. Why? He achieved what seemed impossible. A little man without any arms or army steadfastly obtained freedom for the masses of India. Tremendous achievement. And then Franklin D. Roosevelt. Why? Well, he was the main administrator during World War II that defeated the Nazis and the imperial Japanese clique that had control of the army there. Yeah, he defeated he defeated the Nazis and the Japanese, who rather kill themselves than anything. They're either gonna kill you or they kill themselves or something. And then Winston Churchill. Now, why Winston Churchill? Well, at one time he was practically alone, although the U.S. was backing him, against the vaunted Nazis. One time he was alone, and so you have to give him credit. Now, I then have Vladimir Lenin. Why Lenin? Do you realize the masses of people that were subjugated? And Lenin said, we, the masses, should rule ourselves. You understand? That's tremendous improvement for the masses of the people that were suffering and doing all the work. You know, it was like Abraham Lincoln said, he says, here in the U.S., he says, the way there's some of these that want to do it is, you work and make the bread, and I own it and decide how it should be portioned. You see? So, then Mao Zedong. Oh, Mao Zedong. Do you realize that Russia collapsed? And Mao Zedong, with 10 times the problems, kept the country together and modernized it, opened it, modernized it. A tremendous achievement. And then Mikhail Gorbachev. Well, he said that let the people vote, and if those in Eastern Europe want their own country, let them have their own country. We do what we vote here in our country. Wow, that was quite an improvement to free those countries of Eastern Europe. Then I had Mother Teresa. Well, nobody can argue about Mother Teresa. This little girl going into the gutter and helping people that were poor and dying, nobody caring for them because they were being treated like an animal. And he says, no, she put forward the concept that of human rights. Every human being has a soul, has rights. Every human being is a human being and must be treated that way. And then she said they also, of course, she believed in a divine Christ, God, and they have a soul. But on an actual level, she got them out of the gutter and able to keep them from just dying like an animal. Human rights. And then Fidel Castro. Oh, God. Do you realize that for really the first time, and maybe since Columbus came here, that a leader said, I am not going to be dominated by the United States. But he started out wanting as a friend and wanted to play baseball for him and so forth. But then he said, hey, the way they do it is they're the powerful U.S. and you're subjugated to them. He says, no, this is my country and I'm not going to be subjugated to them. I'll get help by somebody else so that I don't have to, they don't have control of me and this country. That is a breakthrough as far as North and South America. And then yours truly. Why me? Well, very rapidly. I put forward fusion energy. I put forward a concept that now you could not use fission, especially fusion. It's 100 to 1,000 times more powerful than what they dropped on Hiroshima. Do you understand it? 100 to 1,000 times more powerful. You cannot use that anymore in wartime. If the Nazis didn't use gas, like in World War I, they used gas. If Hitler could not refrain from not using, then we have to refrain ourselves from not using radiation bombs. It's just wipe out an entire city with just one H-bomb, and they got 1,000. I couldn't believe it when it went by 10. I said, what are you doing? With 10 bombs, you can just about wipe out most of the population. They got 1,000. So you cannot use radiation bombs. And if Hitler didn't use gas, that criminally insane genocidal maniac, then how can any other nation or group of people use gas or radiation bombs? So that's the program we've had and still have. Use diplomacy. You get diplomats who, of course, dress good and they're educated and they speak good. And they get together, especially if they get together at one of the homes. And they're there with their wife and family, and they sit there and they have dinner. And they then talk from a point of view of humanity and say, look, you want to do this and we want to do this. And one of them says, yeah, you want to do that and we want to do this. And they talk over through diplomacy their difference of opinion. And that I put forward at a secret meeting at the University of Rochester Psychotron building. It's been our policy ever since. Now, how many years is that? From 1947, that's 53, 63, 68, and it's been almost all of the major part of the 20th century and now this 21st century. And then I put forward the photoelectric copier, Xerox, revolutionized how you do business and record. And then I put forward the improvement of the Lorentz, they call it the Lorentz-Einstein transformation equations. And that I said, I'm sure, and I put definitely experiments and so forth, in a one-on-one secret meeting with Einstein, and he agreed with me that they had, without mentioning it, increments of velocities greater than the velocity of light, superluminous velocities. Now you hear it all at superluminous velocities and so forth. And they came up with tachyons. And he said, like when? Well, this was April 1955, and I says, I think by 1975. And by 1975, CERN announced that they could exceed the speed of light. Okay, so then his limited, and he thought, well, Einstein said to get the real answers to this universe, man has to think rational and use a mathematical schema. And I said, well, no, I think man has 2 feet on the ground. Rational man thinks rationally what's really there and puts real representative expressions of what is this huge, tremendous, infinite, complex universe, but he puts it forward into sound, valid mathematical physics. And mathematics is the language of physics. And so I have the capital C. I didn't want to call it the Castellano transformation equation, but it's the capital C transform equation because I use capital C instead of little c. You see, the Lorentz is really Lorentz Einstein transformation equation is x prime equals x minus vt over the square root of 1 minus v squared over c squared. C is little c, the velocity of light. And I say capital X equals capital X minus vt over the square root, and I say the square root of 1 minus v squared over capital C squared, where capital C is at least equal to or greater than the velocity of light, superluminous velocity. And I had a concept as far as a unified field theory. Then I put forward latification of electromagnetic radiation. You have to understand, whether you like it or not, that is third best in the history of man. The first is fire, to actually cook your food and so your food would not spoil and so forth. And it's fire. And the second then is a light bulb. The light bulb lights everything in the world, and you can see and read. Tremendous difference between a flame and a little gas flame or oil flame and a light bulb. And Edison had the first successful light bulb. That's second. Third is the laser beam. Light of occasion, no electromagnetic radiation. The multi-purpose, futuristic, coherent beam put forward by yours truly. Did the original work, gave it the name. You see. So that's just what I've mentioned, and you have to talk about, I think I mentioned diplomacy, theology. I have Preacher Doc, cosmology. I have some real good work as far as the discipline of cosmology and a cosmological, political, valid presentations. And history, I can kind of keep track of history. Pasteurization, biology, Louis Pasteur, tremendous growth of population, have pasteurization. And, well, then let's get to science. Well, there's Galileo Galilei, father of modern science. I've studied all the scientists, their thinking, and he had, even though he was the first, he has the clearest thinking of what really occurs and how to represent it. Newton is just a made physicist that they copied him, and then they put it in Latin, which he really didn't know, and made him that's supposed to be that smart. That's the history of English doing things. And then second is yours truly, because of the laser beam and the other factors I mentioned in science. And then I have Louis Doc de.b.a. Now, here's a young man. He's going to write for his PhD, his dissertation, he's going to write that he has the concepts that all matter is composed of particles. In other words, you have length, width, and depth. You can see it and measure it. Then you have the molecules that form it. Then you have the atoms that form the molecules. He was of the opinion that it looks like as you divide matter, that everything will reduce to particles. So the particle is so small that if it's radiated in a wave. So he said there's this possibility, or you have to consider that the universe then is of matter and waves. That's tremendous thinking. And I have Max Planck. Well, Max Planck, he would take steel and heat it, and it would start getting red. Then it would start getting white. Then it would start to glow white and become a little fluid. Then it would fly off in sparks and be a fluid. And he said, well, he worked it out mathematically. And Max Planck was a great mathematical physicist, and he came out what's called the Planck constant. And he said then that matter is radiated, but he was talking essentially about radiation in the area of, at that time. Others sent the radiation of waves out into the past our galaxy and so forth. And then Jonas Salk, you realize the deaths and terror. In my neighborhood, the people lived in terror of polio. Poor people don't know what it is, what they could do. If the kid got polio, the only thing they can do is send him to the hospital and they wrap him up in these braces and so forth. He says, wait a minute, you get the soft vaccine that prevents it. That's tremendous. That's tremendous. And then Sister Elizabeth Kennedy. Well, she came up, even though the sister is called like a bush nurse, she came up with using analytic common sense of what was occurring to the muscles, and the Sister Kennedy treatment, and it cured or definitely helped these polio victims, even though being down in Australia and a woman, they horribly prevented her from doing what she was doing that was the best for the children, and it was really best at that time. I think still is Sister Kennedy. So she, I mentioned her, and then there's Marie Curie. Well, she did it a lot by determination, but still, she was determined to keep measuring finer and finer and finer to find what I think Pierre Curie wrote as radium. And Enrico Fermi. Here's a man that studied fission, and he worked out by mathematical physics the actual chain reaction and the amount of MeVs, million electron volts, on a slide rule. He'd use just a slide rule, and it was valid. But you see his original work, it's cross-outs and footnotes and all that, but he came up with the correct, valid chain reaction. And Niels Bohr. Well, Niels Bohr put forth a planetary model of the atom. You have a nucleus, and then you have an electron that circles something like our solar planet. And similar, most of matter then is space, because the nucleus is so small, and the electron is way out here with a negative charge, and the proton in the nucleus is the positive charge. This is phenomenal of what matter then really is, of atoms. And Bohr put forward what's called the Bohr theory of the atom. And Henry Poincaré, you talk about a brilliant mathematical physicist. Henry Poincaré, brilliant mathematical physicist. He gave a speech in 1904 at the World's Fair being held in St. Louis, in which he gave the speech about relativity. Not just special relativity, relativity, special, general, what it was, like length contraction, the variation in time, all of it, which Einstein, of course, read, the whole world read. He's working at a patent office at the time. They all talk about it and read it, that Einstein came up with relativity. Preposterous. And then Olinto de Preto. Oh, who's Olinto de Preto? He was a agricultural, I think, engineer. He was an engineer, had a degree in science, but it was more of environmental science. But he got interested in fission, and he came to the conclusion that matter transforms into energy. And then he said E equals mv squared. Well, they use V then as the velocity of light. Now, then they later changed it to V to C equals mc squared. And he lived in northern Italy, and he did this in 1903 and published it in a prestigious Science magazine that he showed to Einstein, because Einstein lived in that area. And his cousins, they were all friends. They had a little club. And his cousin helped Einstein work with him in the patent office. So where did Einstein get E equals mv squared that they say he said E equals mc squared? Now they say E equals mc squared. But no, he wrote E equals mv squared. He copied d.b.a.'s work. Absolutely stole it. Because he would not mention that d.b.a. But he didn't mention his cousin who got him the job in Switzerland. They say he never had there's nobody as a witness that wasn't his work. Yeah, I researched it for months. And the cousin who got him the job is mentioned in the original papers, and his wife, who signed her original Slavic name, which he only did on official papers. And when he got his the money from the Nobel Prize, Philip Leonard, who his wife worked for, who put forward a photoelectric effect before Einstein for sure, that, his wife worked with Philip Leonard, who was worked with and put forward photoelectric effect. And when they gave it to Einstein, he got real angry. When they sent the check to Einstein, he countersigned it immediately. All countersigned the check to his wife, working for Philip Leonard, who then didn't take legal action. These are the true facts. You understand? Then there's Hilbert, top mathematician. Einstein couldn't come forward with the equations. Einstein flunked mathematics at the university, and then instead of dropping out, his girlfriend at the time and Hermann Minkowski, became a close friend and a real good mathematician, convinced him to then take physics, use mathematics and physics, so that's what he did. He did true facts. Now, he did the original, they say he has the field equations for general relativity. No. Philip Leonard sent him a copy 3 days before, and then Einstein gave a little lecture in a classroom precisely what Philip Leonard sent him. What David Hilbert sent him. You understand? So Einstein doesn't rate, in my opinion, as a scientist, because he was the world's greatest plagiarist. And with E equals mv squared equals mc squared, he stole that from Olinto d.b.a. So I have these. But I want to mention Emilio Segre. Now here's a man, when I confirmed with him, it's a consummate gentleman. A real plus of all the darn plagiarists and some phonies in science. He has written a couple of books, and if you read between the lines, you'll see that he is saying that Newton was a physicist. They would slip him the info. And then Newton quit being a physicist and became a debt collector. And at that time, a debt collector not only could force payment, he could throw you in jail and even put you to death. And the research that I read is he definitely threw some in jail that wouldn't pay him, because I guess a debt collector somehow would keep definitely a portion of it, as he wanted the money. He's working then and collecting money, not a true fact. Then you have, the English are notorious for these schemes. There's that who became famous with a pig's tooth. And then the Loch Ness Monster, definitely shown how it was done as a prank by one man, shown on TV 3 times that I saw. And its silhouette looks like a monster or a sea serpent. Excuse me. That's a true fact. String theory. I put forward string theory. Take a polygraph test with anybody, even though they got that electronic gimmick, which of course I knew. Go by my office, come right by my office, then right string theory came a smart genius. Now it's exposed by the men who worked at electronics and say it's all phony. They do it. It's not even his voice. It's an American that they rig it in such a way he sounds like Hawkins. These are the true facts. Now, I wanted to do it only 50 minutes. It's 35 minutes. But these are the true facts. There's an august body of intellectuals. And the ones I have mentioned are worthy of being mentioned as we discuss this august body. And all of those, of course, realize these are the truth. And I must obtain honors and compensation for my Xerox and laser beam, lattice system electromagnetic radiation, multi-purpose futuristic coherent beam. The first thing I did was say we can use this to help sightless people. All true facts. Thank you, and thanks.